Heaven or hell isn't a place, but rather a state of mind. You could have heaven on earth if you think positive, or you could have hell if you think negative. When most people hear heaven or hell, they picture clouds or fire or the devil with a pitchfork, and that's very cliche. That's very normal. Think about it like this. You're not necessarily talking about the afterlife, but you're talking about the right now, today, this version of your life. The idea that you're building your own heaven or hell on earth every single day with your own thoughts is the most important thing. And most people do not realize that. Nobody really talks about the battles we fight every single day. And I don't mean anything huge. I mean just, waking up, fighting the negativity that creeps into your mind before you even gotten out of bed. And that's really key. Most people, when they wake up, are just scrolling on their phone. They don't want to do anything. They just want to stay under the covers, cozy. And don't get me wrong, me too. But every single day, we have to grow and become better. We tend to put our burdens and our excuses onto other people instead of self reflecting. But really, we need to circle back and actually look at ourselves in the mirror. When we get into an argument, the instinct is to always see the other person's fault and rarely our own. And that's just, part of human nature. That's just who we are. We can't change it, but it's good to recognize that. Try this. Think about the last time you were annoyed at someone, whether that be a coworker, a friend, or family. How much of your first initial reaction was they did this or they did that versus what caused this to happen? We protect ourselves by default. What I like to do sometimes if I'm in conflict, whatever situation, of course, our first initial thought is, what did they do? Why are they doing this? Whenever you're in conflict or something, try stopping for a second, coming back down to earth, and maybe saying in your head, where could I have gone right with this? Or what could I have done differently to avoid this? And you could say that. You could think about that after the conversation or even during, but really reflect. This isn't about blaming yourself for everything. No, at the end of the day, you can't control the other person's reaction. Let's just be real. You can't control another person's thoughts or their actions or what they do. You can only control your own approach, how you go into the conversation or how you deal with the conflict. You can only control what you can control. Now, for example, let's just think of a hypothetical story. Let's just say we have two people. We got Jim and we got Bob. Now, Jim and Bob, let's say they work at the same job. Let's say it's a restaurant and they're waiters. On one side, Jim hates his job. He comes in negative, bad attitude. He gives a half-assed effort. He thinks, oh, woe is me, and self-pity and all that. On the other hand, Bob comes in grateful just to have the opportunity. He says to himself, this may not be where I want to be, but it's just a chapter in my story. I'm able to work. I'm able to make money. Same circumstances, completely different outlook between the two people. And it shows in their effort, even the tips that they receive and their whole experience throughout the day. If you're working a job that you don't like, understand this. Everything is not permanent. Everything is temporary. Everything in your life is just a chapter in your story. And you got to give it time. If you want to change it, you got to make change. But a 9-to-5 is not necessarily bad. It's a way to make capital. It's a way to make money. Now, you don't want to be a bum. Nobody wants to be a bum. The very least thing you could do is get a job. Now, granted, you don't know me, okay? I'm just a random person and you clicked on this video. Why should you take my advice? Because I actually fixed my mental. I actually started using this outlook and throughout everything, my day-to-day routine, it's positive because it's all about perspective. It really changed a lot for me. I used to go into work just like, oh man, I had another day of this BS. But you have to realize, okay, I'm making money. That's good. And now life's not all about money, but you need money to survive. Let's just be real. You need money to survive. And that's just the way it is. Not everyone's going to be a popping streamer or a YouTuber or a musician or whatever. But that doesn't mean it should derail you from what you want to do. If you have dreams, go for them. But you also need to fund your dreams so that they don't stay in your head and they don't stay while you sleep. Turn your dreams into reality. For example, I like making music. Now, granted, I understand that if I don't have a label that's backing me, it's going to take a lot of my own capital to really push me towards where I want to go. With that being said, I got to make money. I need to make money somehow. Get a job. And within that job, work your way up. that's just my approach. You don't have to follow it. Like I said, if you don't care about money, if you really don't, if you just want to stay who you are, then okay, click off this video. By all means, like I said, I can't control anybody. I can only control what I do. And I'm just giving you guys an example of my own mindset and the way that I approach things daily. So for me, some ways that I fight the mental battles that I go through daily could just be, really, like I said, and I know I sound like a broken record, but just zooming out, and perspective is everything. Just zooming out and seeing, what am I stressing about? Is this really life-threatening? Is this going to, in a sense, destroy me? And first of all, environment shapes your behavior, okay? People act how they act because of their environment. Maybe those people are consuming, bad content, or they're just constantly on social media, and that's a big thing. I could say that social media, for sure, you're seeing other people's lives, and it could really be destructive to your own mental, because comparison is the thief of joy. If you're comparing yourself to, these young, rich people, you're gonna feel miserable. And granted, on social media, you're only seeing the highlights. Nobody's really looking at the background, the stuff that happens behind the scenes. So really, I would say, if you wake up and you scroll through social media, just try to stop it. Try to put the phone down. Maybe for like the first 10 minutes, just think. Just think. That simple. When you wake up, be in your own thoughts. Don't let any other outside distractions consume you. Be in your own thoughts. Think about the goals you want to achieve today. Just today, because if you set miniature goals within your day-to-day routine, and it could be as simple as, just stay off the phone the first 10 minutes of the day. If you conquer that goal, boom, that's some natural dopamine for your head. Like, okay, yeah, I did this. That's good. And like I said previously, zoom out and see what you have. The fact that you're even watching this means you have some type of internet connection or phone, some kind of access. It's easy to build a mental list of everything you don't have, whether that be money, a relationship, the body that you want, or the job you want, or, the lifestyle that you want to achieve. Everybody thinks about that, but nobody ever, and I mean nobody, thinks about the opposite. What you do have, like the fact that if you're watching this, like I said, you probably have internet connection, or, a bed to sleep in, food to eat. Granted, if you don't have that, I hope you do. I hope you work your way up to get that. But anyway, the fact that you're breathing, you woke up today, none of that is small. Those are the simple little things that we take for granted every single day. And it's good to reflect and stop and really think, okay, this may not be where I'm at, but it's better to have it than to not have it. The goal is to notice it while it's still there, while you still have it. Another thing is just look in the mirror honestly. And that's very hard to do because, we as humans, our default is seeing themselves look as right as possible and try to not look at our flaws. But nobody wants to be the villain of their own story. So we build narratives to keep us as the good guy no matter what. Now, breaking that habit is uncomfortable. To actually look and see our flaws is a very, very hard thing to do. Me personally, I find it hard to do because, we all think we're perfect. We all have an ego. But if you say to yourself, okay, where was I wrong here? It really feels like losing. It really feels like, okay, did I really do wrong here? But if anything, it's the opposite. It's self-reflection. And every time you try to catch yourself being honest about a flaw, that's not a loss. It's a form of self-love. It's a form of therapy. And self-love is being true to yourself. And it's what actually helps you to forgive. If you learn to forgive, including forgiving yourself, most importantly, of your own past mistakes, it frees you up to move forward. And it all starts with being kind to yourself first. Looking yourself in the mirror and just having that self-love. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm trying to do it the best I can. You just gotta be comfortable with yourself, and that's most important. You gotta be comfortable with yourself. And you gotta own your own ego. Everyone, and this is very true to me at least, and I find it in my day-to-day life, everyone thinks they're the main character. Everyone has some sort of narcissism, whether that's good or bad. Everyone has it. I'm not saying I don't have it, and I'm not saying you don't have it. We all have it. We all secretly think we're a little more right or a little more justified than the next person, a little more main character than everyone around us. That's just who we are. We all are the main character in our own stories. So what I do is, with that thought in my head, is just understanding that everyone brings something to the table and everyone kind of messes the table a little bit. That's just who we are, and we're all just trying to figure out life. We're all part of our own stories, and it's good to know that. Like I said, you may think that you're right, or you may think that you're better, a little more better than the next person, but that next person thinks the same as you. Everyone has their ups and downs, everyone has their own trials. But if you're breathing, even if you're just hearing the words I'm saying right now, you already gave it your best shot. And do not take that for granted. For me, I like to say, all things shall pass. No matter what you're going through, it'll eventually turn into something good. Maybe not right now, but eventually it shall pass. If some hardship is in your life, just know that, okay, this is just another battle I gotta go through. Just think of it as a lesson where you can grow, where you can learn, how you can do better. It's that simple. I mean, like, think back to something in your own life that felt like the end of the world, something you were sure you wouldn't come back from. And look now, you did it. And just know, there's always going to be a force trying to pull you back towards the negativity. But conquering the negativity within your mind is a daily objective and it's a daily task. But just take it one step at a time. The view from the mountaintop is only beautiful because you took that effort to climb it.